What's happening, guys? It's Tony, aka D-Slaps, and we're back with a brand new Draft League video, baby. I'm your coach of the Austin FC for Deerlings. This is our LTM Season 2 Draft Analysis. We were lucky enough to be invited into Season 1, or I'm sorry, not Season 1, into Season 2 of the LTM. So big thank you to the commissioners and owner for, allowing me to take part in this season. Super excited. This is going to be a low tier singles draft league, so super awesome, super excited. I get to use a lot of mods that you don't really get to see shine too often, and that's what's really exciting about this. Didn't have time to do anything like super duper cool in this sort of draft analysis, so I'm just going to be going over my team, just yapping about it. You can throw me on into the background and just listen to me yap about this team. This league is going up on Sundays. Obviously this video is going up on Saturday because tomorrow's Mother's Day, so we are just going to not worry about that. Upload on Saturday this week, and then starting next week you'll see week 1 and so on and so forth on Sundays. So yeah, we had 100 points, 9 to 11 months drafted. What else was there? There was a Terra drafting, so each mon had a Terra tax, and you could draft up to 24 points using Terra with 3 captains at max. It's what is Open Terra? There you go, that's what it's called, Open Terra. So we will tell our opponents and they'll tell us what their Terra types are prior to the game starting. But anyways, I think that's about it. We'll get into our team. So we had the 11th pick, I believe, of the draft. Let me think, because that was 9, 10, we were 12. We were pick number 12. And so a lot of the cool guys that I really wanted were gone by the time that it got to me, like Azelf and Gengar, Lycanroc Dust, Terrakion. What else was I considering? Assuming Arcanine. I think those are the main guys I was looking at. Okidogi, I wanted to try as a Terra Captain. I thought that would be fun. I think that's it. I mean, I didn't make any plans for a while into the draft just because I was like really low into the picks. And so I decided to grab something that I've never used before and I've always wanted to use. Questionable first round pick, but I've never used it, thought it'd be fun. I got Cleor. So Cleor is really, really cool. Its speed is something that could definitely be a lot better, but slap a scarf on it, something like that, and it does well. It gives me some rocks, which is always super nice because there aren't a ton of removal options or solid removal options in low tier, so I thought just having like a guaranteed rocks, almost guaranteed, right? Because I guess you could miss Stone X, but just clicking Stone X, getting your rocks up seemed really, really nice. 135 attack with sharpness is always super, super nice, and then that rock stab just looks really, really amazing. So I'm really excited to grab Cleor. Secondly, I decided to try to think about what I wanted to do Terra-wise, what Terra captains looked nice, and also what kind of pairs with like Cleor U-turning, like what would switch into a Cleor. And I'm thinking, maybe like a fighting type would. That was like the main thing, maybe a ground type. But for now, I was like focusing on the fighting type, and I saw a Terra cap that seemed pretty good. And I figured it paired pretty well with Cleor's, you turning out on a fighting type, and that was going to be Terra Meoetta. This is going to be my Terra captain this season. And what's really cool about Meoetta is, of course, it does have Serene Grace, or not Serene Grace. It does have Relic Song. It does have Serene Grace. It has Relic Song, so we can transform into that fighting type Pierrette form, and it is like one of the fastest Pokemon in LTM, or in the lower tier format. I mean, I don't know what else would be faster than it, LTM wise, low tier wise. So let me see here. I mean, of course you have like Regieleki, which is a certified bum. You got like the Electrodes. You have what else is there? Sorry, I'm like looking right now. You got Jolteon, Ice Cube with no ice, and that's about it. So really not a lot. So if I can get the Relic Song off, I think it'll look really, really good. So of course, like I said, I can switch into those fighting types, or U-turn out with Cleor on the fighting types, and just bring in Meloetta and just hit off a really strong Psychic type attack, or I can get a Relic Song off, turn into a fighting, become the fastest type in the game. And with Terra, this thing is just gonna punch holes through teams. And even base 90 in standard Meloetta form is pretty good. So I was really excited to get Meloetta. It seems like a lot of fun. Of course, a lot of natural special defensive bulk, which is super nice for like AV sets, so you can always sponge hits if you just want to go that route. But Meloetta seemed really, really awesome to grab. So following that, I decided that I was going to go ahead and grab something that I felt would give me some more speed, because speed is also a big problem in LTM, or in low tier. I'm going to keep saying LTM by accident, but in low tier, speed is a big problem, which is why I'm really happy I got Meloetta, but sometimes I don't want to have to turn Meloetta into the pure app form, or being able to get the Relic Song off is sometimes a little annoying. And so I decided to go with Noven here. Once again, one of the fastest Pokemon in low tier draft. And on top of that, it gives me a defogger, which is always super nice. Like I was saying earlier, removal isn't always guaranteed here in low tier, and so it's just nice getting that off. It has a decent special attack set, nothing to be crazy about. Frisk is always super, super nice because you get to just get some intel for free on your opponent, item-wise. And like I said, it gets defog, it does get roost. It gets nice U-turns, so now I got 3 Pokemon with U-turn here, just pivoting around. Super Fang, I believe it still gets Super Fang, which is amazing, right? Because that just cuts someone's HP in half, and it's always super useful. It does. And I mean, it gets some decent coverage. I mean, nothing more than that you really need. It gets taunt, fast taunter is always nice. So, figured Noven was nice, gives me that speed that I was hoping for. Once we were drafting, you saw a lot of people like, start worrying about their speed stats. And so I'm really glad we were able to grab Noven off the board. So following Noven, I think I decided I wanted to grab a fairy next, because fairies were also starting to run low. I was hoping to grab Tinkaton earlier before like Noven, and that got grabbed. What other fairies was I looking at? I was considering Pheasantipity, but I got told that mon is Buns, and so I trusted my friend's words. I was debating an Amorous Tea. It was a bit expensive, but I was definitely debating it. I think it got grabbed a little bit before me, so that option was also gone. I think that was really like the main fairies I was looking at. Comfey would have been cool. I really would have liked to have been able to grab it as a Terra, but it was just too expensive with Meloetta, so that was unfortunate. Considered Diancie for a little bit, but I wasn't enjoying the idea of another rock type with Cleor. So rock just invites too many like weaknesses onto your team, I feel like, and I don't think I would have been able to Terra Diancie either, which would have sucked. So I decided to stay off of it, and I decided to go with my pretty much staple of Gen 9 and Galar Weezing. Galar Weezing is just super, super awesome. Once again, gives me another defogger, and a much more solid one at that. It gives me a nice support mount with like Toxic Spikes. It gives me nice status with like Willow. I think it gets Thunderwave as well. I might be wrong. It's a great defensive mon. It gives me a ground immunity if I want to, run Levitate. Misty Surge isn't terrible in these situations, nor is neutralizing gas. And just a great defensive wall, and once again, just helps with fighting types for my Cleor. So I was really excited to grab Galar Weezing and get a pretty decent fairy, in my opinion, especially here in low tier. And so at this point, I was having to decide, okay, I know more just drafting as it goes, let me start making a plan. And I decided I was pretty confident in what I knew I wanted to grab later in the draft, because I knew that I didn't think anyone was going to grab it. And so I decided to go with the Pokemon that I'm talking about I wanted to grab was a Steel type, but I wasn't confident in its ability to be a Steel type for my team. Like the solid Steel type, Pokemon that resist fairies and can just be bulky. So I knew I had to grab a better Steel type. And what was on the board, and I decided to grab because I was debating like Caparaja and what other. I think there's one other Steel type I was debating. Maybe Empoleon, I don't remember, but. I decided to land on Bronzong. Bronzong gives me another ground immunity, which is super nice. With Levitate, also Heat Proof is always super nice as well. Heavy Metal, not really gonna use it, but it's there. But it's really defensive on both sides. Give me more rocks, so I don't have to worry about Stone Axe being my only way of getting up rocks on this team. Gives me support with, like I said, my weaknesses really helped me with another ground immunity. Allows me to take fairy hits really well, because if that fairy is like special or just carrying any kind of like psychic coverage, Weezing really can't do that. So Bronzong just really nice in that way. It just provides a lot of support. This was one of the ones I was debating making one of my Terra captains. Decided to stray away from it from now, but I do have that chance to be flexible with it and make the transaction and make it a Terra captain if I do see fit later in the season. So that's always nice. Bronzong is a bit passive for my liking, but it fit the role that I needed it to play on this team. So welcome to the team, Bronzong. Following Bronzong, once again, like I was stating, I was having to come up with my draft plan, and among the many routes I was deciding to go on this team, I decided that the one mon that really fit across my board was Gastrodon. I didn't have a water type yet, so I have no bulky water, and Gastrodon is super awesome. I was also looking at ground types. I was considering Piloswine for a while, but Gastrodon just really fit the bill. That Storm Drain is just super helpful, making sure my ground type isn't also weak to water. It's only weak to grass, which I have a ton of resistances for right now, so that's really not a big deal. It gives me another hazard setter in both Stealth Rocks and Spikes. I'm a huge fan of Yawn in draft, to be honest. So having Yawn to phase out any potential sweepers, anything like that, is always super nice. And overall, it just honestly hits decently strong. Gastrodon isn't the bulkiest thing in the world, but it definitely gets the job done, and that's what I'm really excited for. Gastrodon, another Pokemon that I can make a Terra captain if I want to. I don't think it would be the best use, but I do have that option there if I need to later in the season, and I see it would help me clinch playoffs or something like that. So, I love Gastrodon, not gonna lie, loved it for years in drafts, so excited to have it. And this is where the foreshadowing from earlier, where I wanted a Steel type that really doesn't play the job of a Steel type really well in the draft league. And that's gonna be my big guy Lucario. Lucario was still on the board, and I'm super excited to be using it. I mean, it just hits super strong, both on the physical and special side. It gets, some pretty decent abilities. Inner Focus, so you can't be intimidated. Justified if I wanted to switch into a dark type move and boost my attack stat. Steadfast in niche flinch scenarios, I guess. I mean, I really won't be needing Steadfast, but it's there. But it gets a great setup with both Sword Stance and Nasty Plot, which is awesome. Gets, crazy coverage across the team. I knew I wanted to get a fighting type on this team, and there's a bunch of fighting types I was looking at. I was looking at this, I was looking at Palmot, I was looking at Breloom, because Breloom seemed really cool. But ultimately, I felt like Lucario was the strongest option still on the board, and I really like Lucario, and what better format to use it than in a low tier draft, right? So decided to grab Lucario, really excited. Like I said, doesn't really play the defensive Steel option well because it just doesn't have the bulk there. It doesn't resist Fairy, so I figured having both Bronzong and Lucario weren't too big of a deal. And so from there, like I said, I was thinking about Palmot, so I knew I kind of wanted an electric type, because if you look at my team, I really don't deal with waters too well, especially the bulky waters. On top of that, I do have a small speed gap between Lucario and Meoetta, are both 90, and then it jumps up to 123 in Noven, so I wanted something to patch that speed tier, and so I decided to go with a little Raichu here. Raichu's pretty cool. You know, just kind of fits that speed tier, hits decently strong, has some good coverage as well. This is one of the guys that I was definitely like, this might end up being my second Terra captain. Decided to stray away from it because I think Raichu is good enough in low tier where I'm not going to need it, and it also has the coverage it needs where it doesn't really need Terra Blast to like hit coverage on something, which is super nice. I may end up changing that later in the season, depending on how the other Terra captain does and how depending on my matchups and things like that. But I mean, Raichu fits the bill. I think he'll be able to get a lot done in low tier. It's one of the fastest mons as well at base 110, threatened a lot of those low tier threats. So I'm pretty excited about Raichu and what it's going to be able to do for the team. So with that, I mean, this team was pretty solid at this point. I was pretty happy with where I was at. Really only needed like maybe one more pick, maybe like a dark type to prevent psychic, like what is that move called? Just like psychic setup users like Reuniclus, like an Iron Crown, you know, something that can just stored power sweep me or something like that. Maybe like a fire type to like resist fairies or something. I really didn't need too much, right? And so I decided to go with something that seemed really, really fun to me as a Terra captain. Filled in a couple typings that I didn't necessarily have yet. So I decided to go with Terra Hound Doom. I'm so excited for this pick. This is just super, super fun to me. It has a decent speed tier, 95, nothing crazy. 110 special attack is pretty strong though, especially considering it's just a Hound Doom, right? And with Terra, I mean, it's just going to be able to break through a lot, whether I want to run it like as a Scarfed Respect set and just do 1,000,000% by Terraing into like maybe one of my stabs, to be honest. Has some decent abilities. No, early bird's always nice. I can use that sleep fodder, low key. I can got flash fire to be immune to fire types, unnerved so that any resist berries just don't work at all to me. And it gets some decent special coverage just off the bat with like Dark Bolt, or obviously it stabs with Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb, which isn't bad. You really don't need a lot more than that. But then you add the Terra Blast onto it. And you're just popping off, right? So I'm really excited to use Hound Doom. If it isn't what I want it to be, then, you know, shrug, so be it. Maybe Raichu will take over as Terra Cap, but I'm excited for Hound Doom. I think this is a crazy aura pick. I'm super excited for him to put in some work, and yeah. So at this point, just had a few points left over. Didn't really need anything in my mind, to be honest. So I just decided to go with something that looked decent on paper, and that's going to be Thwacky. Thwacky, of course, is pretty decently bulky with the Eevee Light. Sets up Grassy Surge for just passive healing across my team. It also provides me with some ground resistance. It's sort of, I mean, obviously they just run high horsepower rather than Earthquake, and they kind of get around that, but that sort of like forces them to run high horsepower, which is weaker. Has a chance to miss, and some Pokemon only get Earthquake instead of high horsepower, so it helps in a niche scenario, and it does just give me strep resist to ground as well, of course. Gives me a strong priority option with Grassy Glide, of course, which, I mean, my only priority on the team is really like Lucario, and like I think Cleor gets something maybe. Cleor gets one, right? I think Cleor gets some priority. Maybe it doesn't. It gets Quick Attack, my guy, and Upper Hand, and Vacuum Wave. Okay, so not much. So it gives me some priority that I really lacked on my team. Like I said, just helps with ground types because I don't think there's any ground types with Mold Breakers. So like Noven and Bronzong Weezing should be like decent ground wise, but it helps regardless, right? And if it's like a ground type with like Stone Edge or something, then, you know, like, or just with some really strong coverage options on my team, Blacky could definitely be helping out. So that's gonna be my team for LTM. I'm really excited for this draft league, and you know, being able to play a lot of my friends that haven't played draft league in a long time, as well as a bunch of new faces who I haven't seen in the draft community before. So, I mean, go check out in the description below. We got the all the coaches should be linked down there, so you can see whoever you want to go see and all the amazing faces in this league. Of course, in the description below as well, you can go check out my recent BBR run. and my KCDL run, my Uber draft league that I did, and see how we did there, because we had some decent runs there, and I was really happy about how those leagues ended up. But I'm excited to bring you this brand new draft league every single Sunday. Make sure to like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.